You are listening to Integrity Radio. I'm your host, Lakeisha.
And I'm your co-host, Sandra Gage, of Integrity Stewardship Enterprise.
And today, we'd like to talk about student loans.
Student loans?
Student loans. It's that time of year again. The kids are going back to school, and those that want to go to college have to find a way to pay for it.
It's not just the kids that are going back to school, Lakeisha. A lot of our adults are going back to school because they can't find a job.
That's very true. In this economy, everyone needs to scrape up some change so they can go back to school or go to school for the first time and try to better themselves so they have enough money to meet basic needs. There's a couple different ways that they can pay for school.
Some of the ways is by grant, which they don't have to pay back.
That's awesome.
Some are able to get scholarships, whether it's athletic or educational in some specific area.
And that's not always easy for everyone to do.
But unfortunately, most of the students have to get a student loan. And student loans are rampant right now because of the economy and people not being able to pay with any other source. They are actually going for student loans that are going to possibly be way above their means to repay. It's a possibility that their student loans will not be able to be repaid when they finish school.
That's kind of devastating. You always have that picture in your head that I'm going to go to school and get this great job and then I'll be making all this money. But reality is you might end up not making much money at all because you're spending all your money paying off your student loans.
If you can even afford the payment. Unfortunately, a lot of students are not really concerned about it. Every time it comes time for the student loan to be paid off, some students are going to take additional classes just so that the student loan payment process won't start.
That's really messed up.
In the old days, students would go to college with the expectation that when they finished college 4 years later, that they would have the job that would cover the cost of paying back those student loans.
Right.
But today, because the economy is so bad, they can actually go through their 4 years of college, even if they went to medical school or law school, and when they get done, they may not be able to find a job. And student loans cannot even be written off on bankruptcy anymore.
Wow. Well, the crazy part is the interest rates are so high, and they seem to be getting higher.
And that's true. Just recently, there was a problem with Congress deciding about increasing the interest rates, and all the students, I'm sure, were really concerned about that. But they did not double the interest rates. But that's something that you need to think about, that at any time, Congress could just make a change, and the cost of paying back that loan might be more than what you expected.
So we've all heard the story about the housing bubble in the market and how it crashed, and we keep hearing that the next bubble that's going to bust is going to be the student loan bubble because so many people owe money that they'll never be able to return.
And I totally agree with you on that. I really do think that the educational area is the next place that we're going to really take a big hit, because it's a change that seems like nobody is paying attention to. Just the other day, I noticed that I think it was the University of Akron. They have just decreased the cost of their student loans, like cut it like by 30%, because of the fact that students are not able to pay for these continual increase in tuition costs. So of course, as the tuition costs go up, the student loan balances that the students have to pay are also going up. So it's getting out of reach. What student can afford to pay $30,000, $40,000 a year and not have a job to pay it back?
Right. Well, that's not the only places that are trying to help students be able to afford college. The president right now is trying to put some action into the colleges to make them lower the tuition rate, but also some programs are starting to emerge that are trying to do forgiveness programs, like the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program forgives your loans if for 10 whole years you paid your monthly payment on time. And I'm sure that's not a big bunch of people.
And that's the problem, because if you don't have a job when you get out of school, you're not going to be able to pay those loans back.
Anything you'd like to say before we go to commercial?
Sure, I would like to invite you to go to Integrity Stewardship Enterprise. I'd like to invite you to purchase my book, Destroying the Chains of Debt Forever. You can get the book at IntegrityStewardship.com.
It's available on audio and ebook. Do you have a question or topic that you would like to hear discussed on Integrity Radio? Send your emails to integrityradio@integritystewardship.com. We'd love to hear from you. You are listening to Integrity Radio. Visit us at integritystewardship.com. We will be back shortly with more Integrity Radio. You are listening to Integrity Radio. I'm your host, Lakeisha.
And I'm your co-host, Sandra Gage, CEO and President of Integrity Stewardship Enterprise.
And we are talking about credit reports. What is a credit report?
A credit report is like your high school grade report or your report card. Just like you would get grades when you're in school, you are graded on how you handle your finances. So a credit report is a way for creditors to see, will you pay your bills on time? Are you delinquent? How many bills you have? They're really looking to see what your history is.
So, how do I make sure I get good grades on this test?
One way to make sure you get good grades is to not overextend yourself. If you have credit, make sure that you pay your bills on time. Make sure that you don't overextend to the point where you have too many credit cards.
Now, why is that bad?
If you have too many credit cards with a lot of available credit, creditors are a little concerned that maybe one day you might wake up and decide to go out and run up your credit on every single one of those cards or resources that you have. And they know that your income can only handle so much. So that's not a good thing.
What other things help you to get a good report on these credit reports?
Some of the other things that would help you get a good report would be paying off your credit cards, paying on your credit cards. Like, say, for instance, if you have like a 90-day same as cash type situation and you pay it off before that time is up where you don't even have to pay any interest, that all looks good to the creditor, that you really know how to handle your money, that you have thought it out, and that you're paying in such a way that you're in control.
So do I get this credit report from just one place?
Actually, there are 3 credit reporting agencies. There's TransUnion, there's Experian, and there's Equifax.
And what's the difference between those 3?
There is not really any difference. It's just 3 different agencies that actually watch your credit history. Any one of those credit reporting agencies may have a different credit report on you. So you need to check your credit reports quite often, at least 3 times a year.
Why is it so important to check them?
It's important to check your credit reports because of, number one, identity fraud. You want to check them to make sure that there are no errors, because human error does happen. It's a possibility that you could have somebody else with a name Keisha instead of LaKeisha, and it may not be you. Maybe that person doesn't have a middle initial, but for some reason they're putting their credit purchases on your credit report. I even had a situation where I checked my credit report and they had my daughter's credit information on my credit report. So it's very important for you to check that out.
So I think I'm going to go online. I saw some website that I got in an email that said if I paid $25, I can check my credit report.
I would not recommend that, because you can just go to annualcreditreport.com and get a free credit report from all 3 of the credit reporting agencies once a year.
Free.
Free.
Let me write this down. Okay, so you said that I need to check it 3 times a year, and they only give it to me once a year. What else would go on there besides credit cards? Is there anything associated with buying a car?
All your loans, all your credit purchases, if you get it through a financial institution, if you get it through a credit union, if you get it from a auto financing company like GMAC, any purchases that you get on credit could possibly show up on a credit report. It just depends on if they report your credit activities to the credit reporting agency. Every company does not necessarily report to the credit reporting agency.
So let's say I check my credit report on this free site you just told me about, and I find some not so good things on there. Am I ruined for life?
No, you're not ruined for life. It would be a matter of checking that information and then working to clear it up. If it's misinformation, call whoever you have to get it fixed. If it is because you've made several late payments,